Hi, I'm Jackie Atkins. I am a Nelson-based filmmaker and I am a member of the KSBI community. Yeah, so growing up I was always into writing, but I didn't really consider film at all until university. Yeah, I was doing a lot of creative writing, kind of fiction stuff, and also journalism. That was kind of what I was originally intending to go into. My dad was a journalist and had a newspaper. And then in university, I don't know, I just sort of fell into it, took a film class and was like, oh, this is kind of fun. After university, did a fellowship working at a place called Wingush Film Institute on Manitoulin Island. It's an Indigenous film school, so I was doing a lot of kind of documenting sort of what they were doing there. So we went hunting and trapping and fishing a lot. And then from there, kind of went on to work for someone else on the island named Neil Dubosky, who has a hunting and fishing TV show. Did quite a bit of work with a director named Darlene Naponte, which is really cool. So I worked in camera department and worked on one of her feature films and documentaries, and moved out to Nelson to become a woodworker, and here I am. I think the first kind of main project was I met Amy Bohegan. We just sort of clicked and we're really into comedy and stuff, and she asked me to come on to be a writer on Southern Interior, which was a sketch series that was made locally in the Kootenays a couple years ago. And then most recently I did my own documentary funded by the Columbia Basin Trust called Swabber, which is a short documentary about a legendary guy named Bobby Swan, who's a ex-Olympian and current ski racer at the age of 82. Upcoming projects, I've got a short film I'm going to be shooting this summer in July. So that is funded through the Canada Council and the Columbia Basin Trust as well. So that will happen in July. We're going to shoot in Caslow and in Nelson. So it's called A Blaze, and it's set during wildfire evacuations. Essentially it follows a daughter and a dad who get evacuated from kind of Slocan area to Caslow and get billeted with an older Japanese gentleman who's going to be played by Hiromoto Ida, which is exciting. I find like working in a small town, you kind of have to write to people that you want to work with in that sense. You know, if you write, a very, very specific character that has certain attributes, and it might be challenging to cast in the region if you don't know anyone like that. So I kind of wrote to a few actors that I had worked with and wanted to work with. In terms of my own film and creative stuff, I'd say probably about 2 years ago, I made a really intentional pivot to put time towards like writing and writing grants and writing scripts. Working on Southern Interior was a really great experience and very eye-opening in the sense that no one's going to come banging on my door and ask me to make the thing that I want to make, right? So it was a good moment of seeing Amy go through that, of like her wanting to make this thing and kind of like carving out a space for that. I think sometimes as like writers or aspiring directors, we think, I'm a writer and one day someone's gonna see that and they're gonna ask me to make this thing and it's gonna be fantastic. And I think it was a good realization for me to be like, that's not how it works. I'm gonna have to put in some serious time and effort. And yeah, it was kind of an intentional choice to spend a little bit less time seeking out client work and a little bit more time investing in that grant stuff. So definitely a bit of a risk, and you have to kind of prepare for that financially, but it has been a good shift for me for sure. So KSBI has been really cool just as a community and a program to have in a small town like Nelson. I can't think of that many other places that have of this size that have a network that's like that for creatives. A couple years ago, I just came across an ad for a mentorship. It was the Women in Film mentorship that was through Kootenay Film, which is connected to KSBI. And I applied and got into that and was paired with an amazing mentor, Nicola Harwood, who is a writer, playwright and artist, many, many things. And they were really instrumental in helping me write my first feature script. Having that structure and that person to support me through writing a feature script was sort of like a confidence boost in the sense of like, okay, I can do this. And I'd written lots of shorts before, and it just became easier to write more after having this experience. And since then, I've done a couple of presentations at KSBI meetups, which have been really great, really good for me in terms of like thinking through how to share what I'm working on. So I did one where I presented a feature script that I'm writing, as well as the short script for A Blaze that we'll be shooting this summer. So that was really cool, just to give an overview of kind of my writing process and yeah, just answer questions. And then I just did another one where I did a screening of the short documentary Swabber that I just finished. In the future, what I'm really trying to pivot towards is writing and directing. Being a filmmaker in a small town, rural like Nelson, it's definitely a challenge. I say that if you want to do it, you gotta do everything. So, and not just in the film world. Yeah, there's not always enough gigs to pay the bills, that kind of thing. So I work as a ski coach. I kind of take whatever. I just finished a really big contract for an association in Vancouver doing like hundreds of hours of editing. So kind of piecing it together and making it work for the creative stuff. You know, the goal is that one day there will be more and more creative stuff, but it takes a long time to get there. And I think the thing with film sometimes it's, you know, someone makes something incredible and we're like, oh, it's an overnight success, but there's a lot of years, I think, of kind of grinding away, doing the little bits and bobs. And it might be a little bit easier to get your foot in the door in like a Toronto or Vancouver or whatever, but what I love about living in Nelson is I have such a great life here. And I've done kind of the working on sets, the grind sort of thing, and it's kind of your whole life. So I love living here, I love having a life, and also pursuing the creative side of things. And it might take a little bit longer, but it's nice. It's a good place to be.